Hello and welcome to Cake It with Liza. Today I'll be taking you through my 5-part series on how to make a drip cake. This is part 4 and I'll be showing you how to crumb coat your cake. Hope you enjoy watching. If you do, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. So now that we've chilled our cake, it's time for us to add a layer of buttercream so that we can give it a crumb coat. And like I mentioned before, the crumb coat just traps all the crumbs into the cake so that when you put your final coat of buttercream onto the cake, it does not crumble. Basically, that's just it. Okay, so here, no difference. I'm just going to be using a bigger spatula just to apply my crumb coat. And what I noticed was that when maybe you're waiting a bit and the buttercream might start to get a bit dry, you can just put it in the microwave to loosen it up a bit, but that's not a problem. So as you can see, I'm just putting a small amount on my cake. I've just started with the top part and just a little layer. As you can see, remember I mentioned earlier about the angled, so as you can see, I put it down round like that and it's doing the job. And I will show you later on how it works with the normal spatula. I'll show you the difference and you know what we're trying to achieve and why I recommended this one instead. Although you can still use that one, it's still fine, but I'll just show you the difference later on when we're doing the final coat. So as you can see, I just have a small amount of buttercream and I'm just gently covering the sides of the cake. So we're just going to do this as we go around, just giving it a light coverage so that it's covered. As you can see, all the crumbs are getting trapped as we go. And as you notice with my hand, if a little bit drops here and there, that's okay, we can just wipe it off. So as you notice my hand movement as have the spatula, I've bent over and my elbow is in the air. So that just allows me to use the spatula and get the right angles that are needed for what I'm doing. So it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect at all because this is just the crumb coat. I'm just making sure we trap everything in. And also what I advise is when you are doing your crumb coat, just ensure you have a separate bowl, because that separate bowl you use like when you put some on the cake and you put it back in, they're going to be crumbs all over. So that's why it's best to have a separate bowl when you're doing the cake, so that it avoids the fresh batch of icing getting all the crumbs in it. That's just it. So as you can see, we're just going around, and like I said before, it's a back and forth movement. As you can see, a back and forth movement. So it's like a wave, almost like a wave, or you're making like an S or an infinity sign. Yeah, so that's how it is. So back and forth movement, back and forth movement. So that allows you to avoid scraping, you know, cake off and leaving you with bumps or holes. So as you can see, we've pretty much done everything. Now once we finish with this, we're going to scrape it and smoothen the sides. Then we're going to put it in the fridge again to firm up, and that way we can have our final coat to go on top. Just gonna do any missing part that I've missed out on. Just gonna go check around. Filling up any parts. There we go. There we go. It seems like we're done most of it. Just get any edges that we've missed. So just to ensure that we have a flawless base when we're working with the other coat of buttercream as well. And that's it. So now that we've done that, just tidy up the edges of the bowl a bit. Then I'm going to get my scraper, and as you can see, ensure your scraper is flat on the board and it's at an angle of the cake. And why do I say at an angle? Because if it's not flat, or if it's not straight on the cake, then when you scrape the sides off, and this is most especially important when we're doing the final coat, when you scrape the sides off, the cake is going to be either not straight along the edges, it's going to be maybe like an A shape, or it's going to be maybe like a V shape. So the idea of putting this flat on the board, as you can see, flat like this, is so that we ensure the sides are straight. And what I like to do is I like to scrape my cakes off in one turn of a drag, and I'll show you what I mean. So this is where my cake scraper starts, and this is where my handle starts, and I drag it all the way around to ensure it stops at where my hand started. And there we go. So it's not perfect, but that's okay, because that's what crumb coats are for. It doesn't have to be perfect, but then when we get to the final coat, that's when we level things out. So let's start again. Like I said, make sure your cake scraper's at an angle, maybe like a 45-degree angle, and then it's flat on the board, and then you try and drag it in one go, and you turn it all the way around. And this is just like a layer, the first layer, to ensure that everything goes well when you come to applying the final layer. It's a bit messy, but I suppose that's cooking. So what do we do at the top? As you can see, we have a lip of buttercream at the top. So basically what we do at the top, we just drag it in. That's why I like the offset spatula. We just drag it in. That helps. So you just drag it in, drag it in, drag it in, drag it in. There we go, we're just dragging it in. It's almost like you're pulling it and dragging it in. Drag it in, drag it in, drag it in. Drag it in. If you notice that there's some bits at the side, that's okay. You can just smoothen it and drag it in. And there we are, we've done our crumb coat.